Rusty Wallace is one of the greatest drivers to have ever raced in the NASCAR Cup Series, making his debut at Atlanta Motor Speedway all the way back for Roger Penske in 1980, where he would go on to finish second to Dale Earnhardt, who won his first championship that season. By 1984, he was driving full-time, battling for Rookie of the Year, and in 1986, he would move to Blue Max Racing, where he would get his first 2 wins, and by 1988 was challenging for the championship, winning 6 races, including 4 of the final 5, but was 24 points shy of hoisting that championship trophy. The following year, he would get redemption by beating Dale Earnhardt to the 1989 Cup Series championship by just 12 points. However, the following year, he would fall outside the top 5 in points with just 2 wins because of an acrimonious relationship with his team owner and would move back to Roger Penske. His first 2 seasons were plagued with horrible inconsistent runs and part failures and could barely finish inside the top 10 points in one of those 2 seasons. The following 2 years would be Rusty Wallace's peak, winning 18 races in those combined 2 seasons, finishing 2nd and 3rd in points, battling for the championship with Dale Earnhardt both those seasons. However, by 1995, his peak was past him, and he only won 7 races across the next 2 seasons and was struggling to finish inside the top 5 in points. And for 1997 and 1999, he only was able to score 1 win each season and was finishing in the bottom half of the top 10 points. Outside of a rebound year in 2000 that saw him score 4 wins and a career-high 9 poles, he was struggling to get wins. In 2001, he would score a win at California and score his 2nd consecutive 7th place points finish, which was followed up with a 3rd in 2002, which was his first winless season since 1985. In 2003, it looked like Father Time had caught up with Rusty Wallace as he was struggling to finish inside the top 15 in points now. In 2004, he would score his 55th career win at Martinsville, which was historically one of his best tracks, en route to finishing 16th in points because of a stretch of 12 races without a top 10 in the middle portion of the season. It looked like Father Time had finally caught up with Rusty Wallace, the 1989 Cup Series champion. We've seen great drivers such as Tony Stewart getting a heartfelt win at Sonoma in 2016 after missing the first 8 races due to an injury and made the playoffs and finished 15th in points in his final season. Or Jeff Gordon in his final year in 2015 got a win at Martinsville and locked himself into the championship 4, where he would go on to finish 3rd in points. But what if I told you even Jeff Gordon in that year, who wasn't even that consistent, still wasn't as consistent as a near 50-year-old Rusty Wallace, who announced his final full season in 2005. A driver challenging for the points lead and multiple points during the season is scoring a top 10 practically every other race? At near age 50? What if I told you that was actually a thing? Because this is something no one even talks about. We are going to look at the best final season in NASCAR Cup Series history. Rusty Wallace, 2005. Penske was looking to rebound after in 2004, only Ryan Newman got 2 wins and made the chase after his 8-win season in 2003. In 2005, Rusty was able to start off his season strong like he had done in years past, getting a 10th place finish in the Daytona 500 and followed up with another top 10 by finishing 10th at California. And after finishing 12th in the following race at Las Vegas, he was sitting 7th in the standings. A mediocre race at Atlanta pushed him down to 9th in points, but it would have to be Bristol where he finally shined for the first time that season, leading 157 laps and by far having the best car on the long run before getting slight damage toward the end of the race in the big one that saw him get pushed back to 13th position 2 laps down. At Martinsville the following race, he would have another strong race leading 47 laps. Although they all came within the first 100 laps of the event, he still was able to have a really strong car and ended out the race with a top 5 finish. In the following race at Texas, where he finished in 10th, it pushed him all the way up to 3rd in the standings after just 7 races. He couldn't get comfortable in that 3rd place points position, however, because in the following race at Phoenix, he would be involved in Tony Stewart's issues, and Rusty would be classified 36th after falling 40 laps down and dropping 7 spots in the points to 10th. The following 2 races saw him drop outside the top 10 in points as low as 14th after Darlington, but after Richmond's 19th place finish, Rusty was able to get back on track by getting a top 10 in the chaotic Coca-Cola 600 while leading 15 laps in that event. At Dover, Rusty would have another strong race and contend with the leaders late in the going before getting passed by both Matt Kenseth and teammate Ryan Newman en route to finishing 5th for a top 5.
Yeah, he opened the door right there for Rusty's teammate Ryan Newman. Go back upstairs. Kenseth just shot through there and took over.
After that race, he would jump to seventh in the standings and was in the chase conversation with just 13 races remaining. With half of the regular season down, Rusty decided to hit his stride. The following race at Pocono, he would go on to finish in 11th and then get a top 10 the following race at Michigan. And then at Sonoma, he would go on to lead 12 laps and finish in 4th to jump up just outside the top 5 in the standings, which he backed up with another top 5 in the Daytona night race to jump inside the top 5 in the standings. He would increase his points position higher by jumping up to 4th in the standings after finishing 12th at Chicagoland, and then get another top 10 at New Hampshire. At Pocono, he would go on to get his season best finish of 2nd after leading 18 laps, and although did not win in the green white checkered, it was a really strong race.
Those restarts, I was going, man, I don't need no more of these starts because he was killing me down in 1, but I was getting it pretty good off the last turn there. But it was a good run for the team. Gained another points, gained some more points today, which was good. This was I was trying to skirt this joint. This was a tough place.
Still 4th in points. Although at Indianapolis he struggled the entire day and finished in 25th, he was able to back it up on the next road course at Watkins Glen by finishing in 6th after qualifying in 4th, which was just shy of his season best qualifying effort so far, which was a 3rd early on in the season at Bristol. At Michigan, he couldn't capitalize on the ridiculous fuel mileage race that saw Jeremy Mayfield win, and Rusty would go on to finish in 13th. And then he followed it up with a top 5 finish at Bristol, avenging what had happened in the spring Bristol race. At California, he was able to finish 15th, and in the fall Richmond race in the Chase Cutoff, he would go on to finish 5th in points, but we'll get to the crazy part about that race in just a moment. Because at that fall Bristol race, he had also led 9 laps, which was his first laps led since Pocono. Rusty hadn't led that many laps on the season, but he was already locked in to make the 2005 Chase, entering Richmond as he was sitting 4th in the overall points. His strong finish at Richmond not only moved him up to 3rd in the final standings of the regular season, he was already locked into the Chase. What? At age 48, Rusty Wallace putting on a banger of consistency and was sitting 3rd in the overall regular season points at the Chase Cutoff behind the 2 leaders, Tony Stewart and Greg Biffle, who were the best drivers across the entire season. Although Rusty was like 300 points out of the regular season points lead, this is still immensely successful and incredible to think about. Now it's time to see how the chase was going to go. At New Hampshire, Rusty was comfortable driving at Loudon because this was actually a track he had won twice before at, once in 1999 and again the following year in 2000. He would qualify in 7th and would actually struggle in the early portion of the race, falling a lap down, but was able to get the lucky dog and rally back to finish in 6th. He stayed 3rd in points, but unfortunately for him, his teammate Ryan Newman lit up the car toward the end of the race and wound up getting his first win of the 2005 season to tie him 3rd in points after being way lower early on. But it's the beginning of the chase, all the points are reset. At Dover the following race, Rusty made his statement known to the world that he was going to challenge for this championship, qualifying in 6th position and would go on to stay up front the entire time. And in a fierce battle with Mark Martin late in the race, he would go on to steal the 3rd position and jump up to 2nd in points, just 7 points behind leader Jimmy Johnson and only 5 points ahead of his teammate Ryan Newman. Mark Martin, Stewart, Biffle were not too far behind, as well as Jeremy Mayfield and Carl Edwards could get in the conversation, while Kenseth and defending champion Kurt Busch were in need of a miracle heading into Talladega. The mission of every driver in every Talladega race, especially in the playoff era or chase era, is to just survive and try to get as many points on the people you're battling. In Rusty Wallace's case, on Tony Stewart. Unfortunately, he would be involved in the big one in the mid portion of the race where Scott Riggs ended up tumbling and Rusty would suffer minor damage and would fall back to finish in 25th. Unfortunately for him, it looked like the 2 drivers he needed most to struggle ended up doing great. Tony Stewart extended his points lead to 76 over Rusty, while Ryan Newman settled in just 4 points behind him. Luckily for them, at least Dale Jarrett won as a spoiler in the chase. The following race at Kansas saw Rusty struggle in qualifying all the way back in 33rd, but was able to light the car up throughout the run, and getting a lap lead meant 5 vital bonus points to his battle for the championship, as he would go on to finish in 7th. Ryan Newman's amazing start to the chase continued, but unfortunately a mediocre finish left him second in points, but Tony Stewart had gained so much on him that he was 75 ahead of Newman after the 4th race of the chase. Rusty only went down to 4th in points, 90 points behind Stewart, and it was going to look like an uphill battle if Rusty Wallace wanted to get a championship in his final season. He needed Stewart to mess up. The halfway point of Rusty Wallace's chase came at Charlotte, where he was running inside the top 15 with just a few laps remaining, while Tony Stewart, the points leader, was on pit road because he had problems. This is what Rusty needed, but unfortunately, with 5 laps to go, he would make contact or lose the car or something like that and spin around. I still can't tell if there was contact or if he just got loose. And he spun it around and went into the wall. This made him lose all the position he had gained on Stewart, and he would bring the car back home in 24th. And unfortunately, this put him over 90 points behind Stewart in the championship. And at Martinsville, only got worse. He qualified inside the top 5 and ran there basically the entire day, just like the Martinsville race in the spring. But unfortunately, with under 20 to go on a restart, he would be slow getting up to speed. And off turn 2, he would get hit in the back by another car and get put in the wall and lose all his strong position. And unfortunately, even though he was able to bring it back home in 19th, this finish put him over 160 points behind in 6th in the championship, over a race back behind the points lead. And this was a stinger for Rusty Wallace and his chase hopes. It would all come undone for Rusty Wallace, unfortunately, because he couldn't even make it 10 laps at Atlanta before getting involved in someone else's wreck. He would roll the car home in 37th and lose a huge chunk of points. And at Texas, he would have another mediocre day and finish in 22nd to put him 9th in the championship, already over 300 points behind the lead, basically cementing that his championship bid was over. At Phoenix, he would have another horrendous, mediocre race and finish in 29th before showing up at Homestead with a horrible qualifying effort, but an amazing race car. Unfortunately, this is Homestead Gen 4 era, which meant track position was literally the most important thing at the entire track, so he was only able to get 13th. Had he qualified higher, he might have been able to get a top 10 or even a top 5, but 13th was the final result, as he was able to finish 8th in the standings, 393 points behind the championship lead. As Tony Stewart took the championship flag by 35 points over the Roush duo of Greg Biffle and Carl Edwards, Rusty Wallace sat there pondering 8th in the championship, almost 400 points behind Stewart's final point tally. Unfortunately, that horrible second half of the chase, basically the final 6 races, did him in. He was as high as 2nd in points, and he took a free fall down to 8th. And it wasn't just Rusty. Ryan Newman's strong start to the chase also fizzled out, as he only managed to finish 6th in the championship when it was all said and done. Oh yeah, I guess Travis Quapple was there too, I guess. At the end of the race, Rusty Wallace is after his 13th place finish. He basically shunned all the rumors out there that he would come back for another season and confirmed that he would not come back full-time ever again. He had a small open possibility to drive part-time for the next few years or for the next year at all, but as we came to know now, that never happened. This race at Homestead was the final race of Rusty Wallace's illustrious career. He would go broadcasting for a bit and then basically just not do anything after, because at some point you got to stop. But we got to take a look at Rusty Wallace's 2005 season statistically. In 36 races at age 48, 0 wins, 8 top 5s, 17 top 10s, and he had an average finish of 13.8 and only led 259 laps. These are the most top 5s and top 10s he's had since 2002. And get this, this was the only season of Rusty Wallace's 26-year NASCAR career where he finished every single race under power. Not once did he go behind the wall or get a DNF. He ran at the finish in all 36 races, and he tied 2002 for 28 lead lap finishes as the most in his career. At age 48, he was doing all this, partnered by Ryan Newman and Travis Quapple to an extent, and he was able to put up these numbers. Being as high as second in points after that second race of the chase at Dover, he could have possibly battled for this championship had everything not gone horribly wrong starting at Charlotte. I think whatever Gordon, Carl Edwards 2016, you could think of all these final seasons that are memorable, but no one seems to talk about Rusty Wallace back in 2005. In the post-race interview, he was happy that it was over and that he had no regrets.
You addressed all the drivers today in the drivers' meeting. Do you feel like you've taught the sport a little yourself?
I'm real proud of where the sports came, and I don't want anybody to screw it up.
Look how that turned out. Rusty Wallace would be replaced by the 2004 series champion Kurt Busch, who would move to the number 2 Blue Deuce Mobile. And Kurt would have his time at Penske and the end of his career, but it all started because of Rusty Wallace ending his career back in 2005. But we mustn't forget how good Rusty was that season. Although he went winless, he finished every single race under power, was as high as second in the championship, and was a serious threat in the first 4 races of the chase, basically first 5. If those things didn't go wrong in the final half of the chase, could we have seen a champion in their farewell season? Could we have seen a 48-year-old Cup Series champion? Would Tony Stewart be a 2-time champion, or would somebody else have won the championship that year? We will never know. But the best final season in NASCAR Cup Series history belongs to Rusty Wallace in 2005. I hope you guys like this video. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.